Hey, welcome back to Agelust, which is going to change. Lots of things are going to change. This is Jessica, and I am your host. So, I've been listening a lot to The Angry Therapist. I don't know if you know who that is. His name's John Kim. And one of the things that I love about his podcast is that he says that he records his podcast unedited, unscripted, something to that effect, because I don't even remember what he says. But he intentionally does that. And in making a podcast, so much time is wasted on editing. Well, it's not really true because there are some super excellent, polished podcasts. But for me, when I'm doing this podcast and I am the producer and I am the editor, I have hired people to edit my stuff, but that costs a lot of money. So when I don't have the funds to do that, or the time to reach out or whatever it is, right? It's me. And it takes so much time and so much work. And then we miss um, important moments together. So, in the spirit of John Kim, I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, I might take out a word or two or a sentence or like some real big fuck ups, but in most cases, I'm going to bring you this podcast unedited, perfectly imperfect as life is. It's October, and that is Menopause Awareness Month. And it's interesting because in this month where there are lots of not podcasts, but well, yeah, there are a lot of podcasts about menopause, but there have also been two documentaries that have come out, one that's on PBS and the M Factor. There's also been controversy in the menopause world. And controversy is obviously not new when it comes to medicine, but I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So I've been studying and working with people around perimenopause and menopause since 2017. But I've mentioned in other podcasts that Sunny, my friend, who is a childhood friend of mine, said, "Oh, you were talking about menopause in seventh grade, probably around the time of my period." I was probably starting to obsess about going through menopause because that's the shit my brain does. I'm going to be worried with the end instead of kind of focused on the now. But I'm working on it. So I've known about menopause forever, and my mother used bioidentical hormones when I was growing up. Anyway, so 2017, I really started to get serious about learning about perimenopause and menopause. And one thing that you know by now, if you're following anything around women's health and this particular journey, this transition, is that there's no formal education around menopause. I don't remember listening or learning about it in nursing school. I don't remember learning about it when I was in school to be a nurse practitioner. And I had to get information somewhere. So I went to the Menopause Society, which is or was the North American Menopause Society. And I knew about that because I had been on the board of a Kegel product. There was a company, it's still around, called One Standard. I think that's the name of it. And they have now bought WeVibe, and they were WeVibe, and they bought the Womanizer. So they were making adult toys for adult pleasure, sex toys. And they were coming out with a Kegel product. And I was on that board. And that's where I learned about the North American Menopause Society. And that was, my kid was 10 months because she came with me on that trip. And that was, I'm going to say like 2016. So I learned about North American Menopause Society from there. I started to really get into it in 2017. And one of the ways that, because I am a visual learner, I'm like the kind of learner who's visual, auditory. I actually will read books while I listen to them. That's one of the best ways for me to really absorb information is I'll put on an audiobook and read the actual text, especially when it comes to nonfiction. So anyway, a little bit about me. And my learning style. If you know that that's some type of learning disability thing, let me know. Let's just add it to the list. Okay. So one of the ways that I learned about menopause was through YouTube because I have been saying for years, not for 1, 2, 3, 4, but for many years, that YouTube has so much fucking information. And I've been using that as a resource forever. And there are two physicians who were talking about menopause on the tube of you. And that was Barbara Taylor and Louise Newsom. Now, Barbara Taylor is still putting out videos, so is Louise Newsom, but Louise Newsom is the one who got in some trouble. So Louise Newsom is British. So I also like to see what guidelines are that are from other countries, not just what's happening in North America, but what's happening in maybe some more progressive countries, countries with socialized medicine, countries with more of a holistic view. And Louise Newsom was coming from the UK. And she even did a guide on how prescribers can prescribe. She did a ton of education on menopause, on medication, and uh, professional education as well. So I learned a lot from her and from Barbara Taylor. If you are interested in doing a deep dive on all things around menopause and you have a good 300 hours, you can watch like all 400 million videos that Barbara Taylor has out on it. But anyway, I'm off track a little bit. Louise Newsom, British, GP, so general practitioner, and she has her own private clinics, menopause clinics. Her business has really developed, but she was a huge resource in 2017, 2018, 2019. Yeah, and on to get information. She also has this app called the Balance app, and she also was instrumental in bringing the topic of menopause and menopause care in the workplace to British Parliament. So she just got in trouble because her practice is to do topical hormones for people, topical HRT, and in particular, she was giving super high doses of estradiol. Now, her justification for that was that, and still is, that some people don't absorb transdermal, meaning a patch, a gel, a cream, a spray onto the top of the skin, as well as they would an oral product, a pill. And so taking the oral estradiol is you're more prone to having the side effects that you don't want and the bad outcome, like a DVT, like a deep vein thrombosis, throwing a blood clot. Let me speak English, throwing a blood clot, and cholesterol issues, all of the kind of negative things that can happen when you take pills if you are taking an estradiol pill. And for some women, increasing the level of a topical estrogen is what is necessary in order to get relief from menopausal symptoms. That resulted in her being asked to leave the British Menopause Society. Lots of articles about it, and even a a little news program thing on like the British, one of the British stations. Um, and that got me thinking about this concept of like this whole perfect and imperfectly perfect and kind of the pressure. And where is the middle ground around healthcare and around menopause care? So, and do we just cancel somebody who's done so much good? Was she harming people? Did she harm people? The thing with medicine, any type of medicine that you take, the benefits, you usually are given that medication, A, because that is the only cure, B, that is the best cure, remedy, whatever, best medicine for the issue, or C, the benefits outweigh the risk of taking that medicine. And when you are taking, there are these camps that are saying like estrogen is completely safe. There's never a problem. No big deal. Take it. It's the best thing ever. And then there are people who are like, nope, your body is divinely created. And when it's done with the estrogen. Like, let it go. Let's just go natural, go into it. And, if you worked with me, if you've listened to me, if you have watched me on the Instagram, you will know that it's never one size does not fit all. And I always look for the middle ground. It's just never one thing or another. It's never, you know, all hormones are bad or all hormones are excellent. I have had a lot of benefit from being on menopausal hormone therapy, but I know other people who hated every minute of it and got off of it as soon as possible. All right. So here's the thing that's interesting too. When we think about guidelines around menopause, one of the guidelines or not one of, this is the real simple. Remember, this is perfectly imperfect, no notes. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head. So if you are over 45 and you're having symptoms of hot flashes, vasomotor symptoms, that's the primary thing, right? Hot flashes, night sweats. You come in, you're going to have other symptoms as well, but those two major ones. And you say, these are my symptoms. This is what's going on. My period is erratic, or I don't have a period anymore. I'm over 45 and my cholesterol is okay. And my red blood cells, white blood cells are okay. They're checking these things. The kind of basic labs are done. They say, okay, well, great. We trust your symptoms. We trust your body. And you do know your body, which is awesome. Let's try hormones. Let's try it. Simple, gold standard, estradiol, body identical, no matter where you get it. If you have insurance and the covers insurance, that is body identical, meaning it looks at it as the estrogen that you've made. It's made of plants. It's on a sticker. Slap that sucker on, and we'll give you progesterone if you have a uterus to counter the estradiol so that your uterine lining stays thin, doesn't thicken, to prevent cancer. Great. And they also say there's no need at a certain age to even look at your numbers when it comes to estradiol. There's no need to look at those. We don't need to draw labs around hormones unless we're thinking about testosterone. That's a whole nother can of worms, but we don't need to look at those things. And what I know from my personal experience as a patient, what I know from my personal experience as a provider is that sometimes that method is perfect and people sail on, and sometimes that method is not good enough. And where do we find the middle ground? So what do I mean by not good enough? Sometimes it's not just the estrogen. Sometimes we need to dig a little bit deeper to figure out what's going on. Yeah, we know it's perimenopause into menopause. We know that that's a given. We know that is probably the root cause of what's happening. But sometimes the estrogen getting on HRT, for example, allows the space for us to discover other things, uh, like a borderline anemia that it's looks like your numbers look pretty good, but if we look at another number, it says, "Oh, you've got no iron stored at all, and you're an active person." I think that all this to say, I think that so people are really basically saying this whole concept of absorption and that that Louise Newsom, I might have said Louise Hayes at one point, honestly, because that's what just popped into my head because, a bitch is tired. But Dr. Louise Newsom, um, right now, this whole concept of like, you're not absorbing it, we need a higher number, it's not harming people. There's a lot of like, it's impossible, can't be true, can only give to this, uh, this level. Um, but I believe that there is a chance that we may discover that there is some truth to that too. That we have to kind of dig a little bit deeper in how we do this medicine. Anyway, because bodies are not, they are perfectly imperfect. They are perfectly imperfect. This is why I'm going to lead into something. This is why I do the Meno Circle. The Meno Circle is for people who maybe are on medication, maybe aren't on medication, but want to explore aspects of this menopausal journey from different lenses. And just like I did in the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind, it is looking at this transition in a new way. So that was a perfect example. My kid just interrupted. Anyway, what I was saying is that, oh, I was talking about my groups. So finding a middle space is what I'm all about, that imperfection, that perfect imperfection. That when I was doing the Mistresses of the Menopausal Mind, it was all about finding experts who knew about menopause and scarcity, menopause and human design, menopause and psychedelics, menopause and sex toys, menopause and relationships, as well as me talking about menopause and the medicine. The Meno Circle, this latest version, and I think moving forward as well, we decided to use texts as a way to guide us. So we focused 2 months using Laura Bryden's book on metabolism and what does it mean if you are having all of these cravings? Yes, we know that a lack of estrogen can cause you to crave sugar, but can we dig a little bit deeper? Can it be that the numbers, and I don't do labs in the Meno Circle because I'm working more as a guide, although I do, although if you're in New York and you want to see me, we can make that happen. But um, a metabolism repair for women is all about thinking a little bit deeper about it, about our bodies. What does it mean to be metabolically flexible? What is insulin resistance? Do you even have that? What does it mean when you've got like food noise going on? So we spent 2 months on that. But she talks about being metabolically flexible. You also have to think about community, relationships, and rest. So the third month that we just finished, essentially, yeah, was on rest, radiant rest. And we met twice, and it was amazing having the opportunity to consciously rest and also think about what is your historic relationship with rest. We used Tracy Stanley's Radiant Rest, yoga nidra for deep relaxation and awakening clarity. And even in the first meeting, when we started talking about the text, I led everyone through a 5-minute meditation. And the phone calls I got were, I slept so well that day. Everything felt better. I felt so rested. Our final month is going to be on relationships because, again, Laura Brydon talks about relationships and that we need to nourish the soul and the body. So we're doing Sovereign Love. We're reading Sovereign Love by Danae Logan because through this transition, we maybe start to realize that we've lost our way. We've lost our sense of self, or we're rediscovering it. So how do we do that in relationship? Or how do we even look back at our relationships? Or how do we model relationships for the young people around us? And it's those pieces that really flesh out the whole transition. So anyway, it's about finding that middle ground. And through this whole theme of perfectly imperfect and change and redefinition, I got to tell you about my redefinition of this podcast. So if you have been a subscriber on the YouTube, excellent. If you have been, if you follow me on, and like, subscribe, do all that shit on the podcast platforms, you're going to see that the name has changed. And the name has changed to the original name of my business, of my website, which is The Private Parts of Wellness. And I originally used that term, the private parts of wellness, because that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we talk about. It's not just about aging. It's these private parts of wellness that are sometimes embarrassing, sometimes exciting, sometimes, I don't know, who we are. And we can expose them without shame. And we can change them and they can grow. So anyway, that's that. Expect a lot of unedited, raw conversation. Ooh, and I'm going to be starting something, I hope. Let's see if this shit works out, because you never know. And it's going to be Millennial Mondays. Not every fucking Monday, but I am going to have millennials on to talk about their shit, and we're going to talk shit together. And it'll be on a Monday because it's Millennial Monday. Seemed good to me. Seemed like a good idea. Oh, my nose is itching. And I have some interviews set up. It's going to be a great rest of 2024, and we're going to hit 2025 like something. Okay, that's it. I'm done. But stay tuned and you can listen to the new intro. And welcome to the Private Parts of Wellness. Welcome to the Private Parts of Wellness, where we embrace the messy and imperfect journey of life. Finding balance and wellness isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, making choices, and accepting the beauty and the chaos along the way. No pressure, no perfection, just real conversations that reduce shame and celebrate the private parts of our minds, bodies, and spirits. Heads up, I swear sometimes, so this podcast may not be suitable for the office or for carpools with kids. I'm your host, Jessica Podonsky, a double board-certified family nurse practitioner and certified menopause provider. We'll dive into everything from sex and hormones to mental health and spirituality, because life is messy, and that's where the magic happens. If you've ever had a question you were too embarrassed to ask, this is the place to get real answers. A quick disclaimer: while I am a medical professional, this podcast is for educational and conversational purposes only. It's not intended as personal medical advice. Please always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes. Thanks for listening. Now let's get messy.